Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really interesting framework, a kind of architecture for spiritual experience. We'll be looking at how prayer, vision, and meditation are presented as these interconnected tools for accessing, well, higher realms.
So, let's kick things off with a question that might just flip what you think you know about prayer. What if it wasn't just about talking, but about traveling? The material we're digging into today doesn't just see prayer as communication. It presents it as a form of spiritual movement, an actual ascension into different dimensions of reality and authority. Pretty wild, right?
So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with prayer as ascension, then move into entering the realm of vision. After that, we'll look at a type of meditation that's meant to shape reality, cover how to navigate all this safely, and finally, wrap it up by seeing how it all comes together to unlock your authority.
All right, let's jump right into part one, prayer as ascension. The core idea here is that prayer is way more than just a wish list. It's actually the main way you can move your consciousness into higher dimensions.
Okay, so the sources here suggest a major strategic shift. Instead of what they call a battlefield mentality, where you feel like you're constantly fighting demons down here on Earth, they push for a courtroom mentality. What does that mean? It means you're actually ascending into what's called the court of heaven to legally, like a lawyer, present your case before God as the judge. So you're shifting from being a soldier on the ground to an advocate in a higher court. It's a whole different posture.
So how do you even begin this ascension? Well, the first step, according to this material, is you got to get past your own logical thinking mind. It's seen as a barrier. Praying in tongues is described as the key to silencing all that internal chatter and basically tuning out the frequencies of the earth. This is what allows the spirit to access these so-called realms of mystery. And then there's an even deeper level, an intense wordless roar or groaning that's said to activate an even higher level of authority.
But here's the thing. True ascension isn't just a mental or spiritual trick. It requires your entire being to be on the same page. Your spirit gets involved through things like tongues and declarations. Your soul, that's your mind and emotions, it engages through your imagination by actively picturing these heavenly realities. And then, super important, your body has to follow through with physical obedience. Your actions have to line up with what you're declaring spiritually.
So what's the engine that drives this whole thing? The sources use this really cool analogy. Think about focused, intense worship. It acts like an accelerator for your spirit. It increases your spiritual frequency to the point where, just like a fan blade that spins so fast it becomes invisible, you can actually slip into unseen dimensions and tune into heavenly frequencies, kind of like changing the radio station.
And this whole process of ascension flows right into our next section, because once you've reached that higher dimension, the next step is to actually see from that new perspective. This is all about intentionally activating your spiritual sight so you can enter the realm of visions.
And this practice starts really simply. The idea is that the darkness you see behind your closed eyelids, it's not just nothing. It's a canvas. It's a screen. By quieting your body and your mind and just focusing on that internal space, you're essentially opening a doorway for spiritual interaction.
Now, this does take some prep work. It's not just random. First is what's called the practice of closed eyes, which is literally just lying down, blocking out all the physical light. Then you use deep worship to quiet your mind and create what the sources call a cloud of glory. Think of it as creating an atmosphere where visions can actually show up. And finally, you have to be patient. It requires focus and stillness, sometimes for up to 30 minutes before anything happens.
Now, this is absolutely crucial. This framework totally redefines what imagination is for. It's not just about daydreaming or making things up. A sanctified imagination, as they call it, is the visual screen of your spirit. So when you intentionally picture biblical truths or heavenly scenes, you're actually using a legitimate spiritual faculty to see into the unseen realm. Okay, so now let's see how meditation fits into this whole architecture. And the way it's presented here is not about emptying your mind. It's actually an active tool to fill your mind with a new reality, and by doing that, to literally shape your outside world.
And the sources are really clear on this distinction. The kind of meditation they're talking about is all about filling the mind. It's about muttering, pondering, and visualizing scripture over and over until it basically fuses with your subconscious. This is set in stark contrast to other practices that focus on emptying the mind to reach a state of no mind or just perceiving an empty void.
There's even a specific technique for this, and it's called controlled reverie. The idea is to get into that super relaxed, drowsy state right before you fall asleep. In that state, your mind is highly suggestible. And that's when you mentally and emotionally live out a scenario you want to happen. You feel it as if it's already real, and the goal is to stamp that reality onto your subconscious so it can manifest.
Now, with all these powerful techniques being discussed, the sources put a huge emphasis on safety and discernment. So this next part is all about making a critical distinction between what's described as a godly spiritual experience and what's considered a dangerous occult practice.
Think of this table as your safety manual. In a godly vision or trance, the sources say you stay conscious, you're aware, and you're still in control of your own will. The whole experience is initiated through your connection with God. On the other side, what they call occult astral projection is described as an illegal entry. In that state, you might lose consciousness, you might give up control to other spirits, and your physical body is left unguarded and vulnerable. A huge difference.
All right, let's pull all these threads together, because these aren't just 3 separate random practices. They're presented as a fully integrated system, and the whole point is to learn how to operate from a place of real spiritual authority.
And this quote really sums up the entire mindset shift we've been talking about. Ascending involves entering the throne room or court of heaven to present your case legally before the judge, rather than just fighting demons on earth. See, it's all about changing your position. Stop fighting reactively down here and start operating proactively from a legal position of authority up there.
So here's how it all works together in this powerful loop. Ascension is what positions you in that place of authority in the court of heaven. Vision is what allows you to see the reality and the verdict from that heavenly perspective. And meditation, that's the tool you use to take that divine heavenly reality and imprint it onto your subconscious mind so that it actually manifests in your physical world. See how they connect?
And that brings us right to the end. This framework, it's not just a bunch of abstract ideas. It's presented as a set of keys. So the real question the source material leaves us with is a personal one. Now that you have the keys, now that you understand this architecture, what realms will you unlock?